Welcome to the Multiply Your Success podcast, where each week we help growth-minded entrepreneurs and franchise leaders take the next step in their expansion journey. I'm your host, Tom Dufour, CEO of Big Sky Franchise Team, and as we open today, I'm wishing you and all of your family a happy 4th of July. And today is the day that we celebrate our nation's birthday, so happy Independence Day. Just happens to be July 4th on a Monday when we release our show. And I thought it would be a fun episode to talk about creating a lifestyle and freedom to live and work wherever you want. It's a fun episode. And today our guests are Scott Freerksen and Chris Mosier. And they're the co-founders of Lakefront Living, which is a real estate company dedicated to lakefront property only. And they share with us how there's a national trend moving out of the city and over to the lake. And by the way, they also franchise their business, and they're the only national real estate company specialized specifically in lakefront properties. So I thought it'd be perfect. Hopefully you're enjoying the great weather somewhere, or vacationing and enjoying a hot dog or watermelon or hamburgers or somewhere for a 4th of July celebration. And as you're doing so, and maybe thinking about moving to the lake or vacationing to the lake, that this episode is timely for you. So let's go ahead and jump into my interview.
Well, hello, Tom. Thank you for having us on here today. I'm excited to be on your show podcast. So Lakefront Living Realty, Scott and I both started this, what year was that, Scott?
2015.
2015. That's been a while now. But Scott was growing up on a lake. I'll let him share his story. But I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I was blending a family, and we had 3 little kids. I had 2 daughters, and my husband had a son, and we thought, let's buy a lake house to blend this family together. So in Ohio, lakes are destinations. Unlike where Scott's at, everybody's on a lake. So we ended up buying a little cottage about an hour from our home at Apple Valley Lake, and just fell in love with lake life. I mean, we live for the weekends. In fact, one of the best things growing up for my kids is all their friends would come on the weekends. And it was just the best family time and family memories. And we just loved it there. And I was sitting on the end of the dock one day with my husband. And I'm like, I'm loving this, and I just want to be here all the time. So I decided just to start selling strictly lake homes. And that took off like crazy. I was an hour from all these different lakes from where I lived in Columbus, Ohio. So I decided to call myself Central Ohio's lakefront specialist, and it took off. I couldn't believe it. It didn't exist. There were so many people that wanted a lake house, but they didn't know about the lakes. They wanted a lake house within 2 hours of their home. They wanted a cottage, so I became a specialist at all these different lakes, and it just took over and overwhelmed me. And I just saw a need for a niche with that. And when I wanted to expand and go further, I had been with Remax for years. Their programs, the way they are, wouldn't allow me to do that. So I just started searching out there to see, there has to be a niche company that sells just strictly lakefront homes, and it didn't exist. And in that search, I met Scott online, and we collaborated, and here we are years later, and franchised, and now going into 9 states. We're just growing. So it's been great.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. And Scott, how about you?
Well, as Chris mentioned, I'm pretty fortunate. I was born and raised on the same lake that I still live on now. And I'm here in Mansfield, Massachusetts. So my parents still live 3 doors down. My wife's parents still live across the lake. So we're pretty fortunate to have this in our blood. So it's kind of interesting to be able to take something that you're really passionate about, which to me was the lakefront lifestyle, and then turn that into a business, and hopefully, something that keeps growing throughout the country. But, I was in the corporate world for 17 years. So went through documentation and management and everything there. And for all those people who are in the corporate world now listening to this, I never felt like I belonged there. And maybe there's other people who feel the same way. But, for me, it was 9/11 actually that I finally decided just to get out and do something completely different and follow my passion and go that route. So that had a pretty profound effect on me, and decided to get into this lakefront real estate thing, a lot like Chris did. And just we found out that, there was a severe need out there for people who wanted to live that lifestyle, but didn't know anything about the lakes, how many lakes are out there, what kind of lakes they are, the quality of lakes, can you boat, can you fish, can you swim? I mean, all those questions people had, they couldn't find anywhere else. So when we developed lakefrontliving.com, it grew pretty quickly because obviously we tapped into a need that wasn't being met out there. So that began our journey.
Wow. Well, thank you guys for sharing the little background here on that. And speaking of the Lakefront Living, and just curious about current trends you see happening. And we're in, summer. I guess it's summer is underway here, and so people are out and about. They're getting out, hopefully, to the lakes and rivers and beaches and so on, and they're vacationing and going and doing things in the nice weather now. So what trends are you seeing happening in your space for Lakefront Living that maybe they've been impacted through the COVID lockdowns and shutdowns and such, or just this change in with employees and people kind of having this awakening of saying, I want something more out of my life. How are you seeing that impact what you're doing?
Oh my goodness. It has completely impacted our industry. There's always been a high demand for lake homes. I mean, it's always been, as soon as you put a lake house on, there's always been, a lot of showings and stuff, but now you can't, it's always a multiple offer situation. The recognition that our website has gotten on a national basis since COVID hit, and we really saw it when COVID hit, like our Tennessee partners and Missouri and Alabama, the influx from the further out west, from California especially, just moving here, wanting to move to beautiful lakes in the mountains or just anywhere. They just want to move. All of our listings go like that. In multiple offer situations, even before they go on the market. Sometimes it's the new putting homes on is coming soon. So we're seeing a huge influx of, whereas before for me, it used to be people within a 2-hour distance of a lake. Now it's from all over the country. And that's had a huge impact on our sales throughout our entire company. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, the pandemic really, what we found was obviously people wanted to get out of the cities. And now with so many people working from home, the stats are just through the roof. A lot of them said, I want the ability to be able to work where I play. In fact, we have a whole campaign around live, work, play, because so many people are coming in, out of those cities, and they just say, well, if I can work from home, why not work from a place where I love and I get to hang out on the lake and look at that all day and play out there. So we've just seen just a tremendous increase based on this pandemic.
Yeah. And one of the things I saw that you offer, you have this 10 things or 10 questions lakefront property buyers should know, or first-time buyers should be aware of. So I'd love for you to walk through those. I don't know if we have time to go through all 10, but people listening in may be potential customers for you and looking to maybe take advantage of some lakefront living. So I'd love for you to walk through some of those items that you've put together there.
Yeah, we can talk through a couple of those. In fact, if you have listeners who are really interested, we have an extended list of 37 items that have just come from over the last 15, 18 years of doing this, where buying lakefront property is completely different than any other property because there's so many other factors involved. And we've learned the hard way a lot of times, in fact, 37 times, that there are things that can get you in that process. So we put a list together of all of those. But for example, flood insurance, not all lakes require flood insurance. So how do you know what you need or don't need? And that can be a big deal because the flood insurance rates could be anywhere from, $900 a year to $15,000 a year. Well, that's a big difference. So you really need to know what you're getting yourself into. So one of the first things we always do is for our clients is pull a flood certificate, they call it, and make sure it is or is not in a flood zone. So that's pretty important. Other things are based on the lake itself. The lake itself can, you can have It's what's interesting about lakes is you can be one neighbor to the other, and the experience can be completely different. So your shoreline conditions, the weeds that might be in there, whether you have shallow entry or a deep entry, or whether you can put a dock in or not put a dock in. There's just all these dozens of questions that come up for lakefront that you probably wouldn't think to ask otherwise, that are included in those 10 steps.
Great. Well, and thank you for sharing those. And for someone who's maybe listening in, like, where can they get that? How can they get access to the 10 or the 37?
Yeah, lakefrontliving.com is the place to go. And any form they fill out on there, it will give them access to those things, or they can just request it through the contact us.
And you know what, we've done our website too, when you go on there and look for those. Each lake, we have over 2,800 lakes on our website now. Gives a full description of, from what fish are in there to the depth. But what's really nice that we have is we have specialists that know each lake like the back of their hand. They live it, they boat on them. So even though you may not be able to read, even on our website, this part of the lake is a lot shallower, so the weeds are a lot higher, but the property prices are a lot cheaper. A specialist is going to know all that kind of information too. So it's nice to reach out to our agents, just to even ask general questions like, if I want to live on Lake of the Ozarks, but I only want to spend this much money, what areas do I need to be in, and what's my frontage going to look like? Do I have to be on the very back of a cove with no view, or can I be on the main lake with big, huge views? So it's nice to reach out to our agents too through that.
Great. Perfect. Well, this is a great time. I'd love for us to transition to this, to ask the same questions we ask every guest before we go. And the first question we ask is, has there been a miss or two you've had in your career along your journey, and something you've learned from it?
Yeah, I think for me, as I was thinking about that, I wish I started earlier, and you probably get that a lot. But for me, spending 17 years in the corporate world where I didn't really feel right, it wasn't the best thing. But the only good thing that came from that is, I think, without the corporate world experience, I really couldn't have put a lot of the things in place that I needed to put in place for this franchise. I mean, I was a documentation manager there for a lot of years, and so the documentation piece of this, to me, came very naturally, and for others it may not. But things like doing the blog posts that we do and newsletters, things that Chris, for example, hates to do, I absolutely love doing that kind of thing just because it's ingrained in me. But I would have started, this whole process a little earlier, and I think that's probably my biggest miss.
I think for me, it's, oh my God, I'm the feeler. So I'm the expressive person, but I always let fear stop me from taking steps. And for the longest time, for years, I let my business run me, and I didn't run my business. I was either not, fear for me stands as false expectations appearing real. So I would fear that it would take too much time to lead a team, or I'm not smart enough to lead a team, or, oh my gosh, being a broker of a business, that there's so much responsibility that comes with that. What about errors and omissions insurance? And I can't do that. So I always was my worst enemy with fear, till I just said, nope, I can do this. I have the faith to do it. And once I started leading people on my team and handing things out and delegating and building and serving others, then I was leading my business and it wasn't leading me. And it's completely changed my life now. I have evenings and weekends. I can work from anywhere, and I don't work ungodly hours, and I'm at peace and I'm happy, and I just love what we're doing. So fear was the big thing. I let it stop me. That would be my answer for that one.
Yeah. Thank you both for sharing. And how about this idea of a make? You've already shared some of the successes you've had, but are there other makes or wins along the way that stand out that you'd like to share?
Well, for me, I think no doubt, a long time ago, when we were first getting into real estate, I went to some marketing seminar and they talked about specialization. They talked about the power of niche marketing, and that really stuck with me. And the whole concept is when you narrow your focus, you expand your appeal in the marketplace. And we work in an industry where there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of other agents. So how do you stand out? So the best thing I've ever done in this career so far has been to specialize in lakefront property. And when you specialize, all of a sudden you become the answer person to solve problems that people have out there. So the people that were looking for those, like Chris said, that were looking for lakefront property but couldn't find information in the lake. They couldn't find specialists to help them with what they do. They couldn't find a website that was a one-stop shop to get them there. And all those things we were able to put in place. And, be honest, since then, right, Zillow has come into play, Trulia, Realtor.com. These are big companies that are trying to be all things to all people. Both for the people we're trying to sell to, buyers and sellers of lakefront, those companies can't dive deep enough, pardon the pun, to get into this niche as much as we are. So that decision has really made all the difference going forward.
That was good. For me, it would be, and I was thinking about this before we had this call. I think it was fun to see HGTV reaching out to us, not just once, because there's a lot of realtors that are on it, but repeatedly. We've had many times they reach us for we've been filmed so many times now. We have Hollywood producers reaching out to us. We kind of feel like, oh my gosh, wait, we've been working on this each year, but now people are actually coming to us, not just for real estate, but for other lake needs too. And I feel like we've created something that's gotten that recognition. So that's been fun to see that happen, just to make something that's now getting some notoriety in a way. Then also, I think on a more personal level too, leading my team and with my partners too, just the relationships I've developed with them. It's not what it's in it for me. It's about building them up. That I used to be so focused on what do I need to get done to get my list done for the day and focus on what I need to do. But now that I'm serving and focusing on others and building them up and helping them out, helping them to be a success where they're at, not just so that I make more from that, but it's so fulfilling to see people having success, and it's just fun. That's a big make.
Oh, great. Thank you guys for sharing. And let's talk about a multiplier. And you guys are obviously franchising your business. So I'm always a huge proponent of franchising. I've spent my career helping companies franchise. But I'd love for you to talk about a multiplier that you've used in growing yourself, your business, or another growth opportunity you had throughout your life.
Well, real estate's a funny thing. I think when I first got into it, I thought I was in the sales business. And that's an end result, but make no mistake, we are in the lead generation business, and that's what this is all about. I think any real estate agent that doesn't make it, or any broker that doesn't make it, is just because they didn't have enough quality leads flowing in constantly every day. And so we built our entire systems around the ability to get quality leads coming in. And when you specialize, that's obviously an easier way to do that, because people can know, like, and trust you before they meet you. And that's a big qualifier. But that lead generation piece is really what we focus on daily. And we're constantly improving how we get those leads coming in to all of our partners. I mean, there's about 18,000 leads we got last year that were all new leads. So that if that's per year and you divide that per state, that's a good amount of leads coming into everybody. And then it just becomes conversion. But conversion you can teach. I mean, there's too many pieces of real estate we can't control. We can't control the market. We can't control the pricing. Can't control the time of year it is. But what we can control is the amount of leads that we get from buyers and sellers. And that's what we focus on.
I think too, going along with getting those leads, like, it's been fun for me. So I started out in Central Ohio. Well, now I'm statewide, and I run the entire state now because I have specialists at each lake. But what I've had happen is Candlewood Lake is about an hour and 15 minutes from Columbus. Had a brand new agent come on. He retired moved out here from California. retired, and then he decided he wanted to get his real estate license, and new to real estate, but lived on a lake and passionate about it. So he joined our team, and within 1 year, within one season, being a new agent, having no presence at that lake, the following year, he dominated the listings. And it was all because of our systems and the leads that we bring in, but then all of our systems and our marketing plan to just pop him right up there. And that was so exciting for him as a new agent. I'm like, you don't understand, this doesn't happen with new agents. This is not normal, but this is crazy, but it's just fun to see that happen, like at Candlewood Lake. So I think, our systems also is another one.
Oh, that's great. I love it. And so it sounds like now, would this be a franchisee that came in the system, or just a new agent, and just in terms of the kind of person that came in?
So this was a new agent in my team in Ohio. So if I were franchise, so I would run the franchise for Ohio, but then it's been fun for like our Lake of the Ozarks. Annie and Jesse, they run Lake of the Ozarks, and they have grown to the whole lake now. And that place is enormous. Oh my gosh. They have like big yachts. Like we can only have 23 feet long boats in Ohio on Lake of the Ozarks. It's yachts. It's crazy. It's so big, but watching then our partner or franchisee, we call our franchisees partners, and to see her have the same experience, it's been fun.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. That's great. Well, yeah. The final question we ask every guest is, what does success mean to you?
Well, we have a tagline you see all over our marketing that says changing lives one lake house at a time. And that's really the cool part to me, is that we're building something that really does change lives. It's always about a year later, we'll get a call from a client that's been on the lake for a year, and they'll say, okay, now we finally understand what you've been talking about all this time, because it really gets into your blood and changes your life. It's hard to describe unless you're kind of part of this little cult that we got going here, but living that lifestyle is a life changer. So, and the nice thing is, that same tagline we can apply to our partners. We're hopefully, giving them an exit plan to change their lives forever, and they get to do the same for their clients. So, to me, that's what success is that we just continually get that feedback that people's lives are now different than they were previously, just because of what our business does.
How can I top that, Scott? I mean, anything else is going to sound self-centered. But I agree with that. That's huge, and it's fun watching all of our partners and agents with their lives change, but even the clients that we serve. But I think too, honestly, we have the exit plan, the 1 year, the 3 year, the 5 year plan. But honestly, if I get my head just wrapped on those, sometimes I'll go nuts. So mine is success. If I can get through, take on each day, each morning, I started out for me in the Word, and how am I going to serve everyone that's around me that day the best and get through that day? If I've had a successful day at the end, or learned from my trials, then it's a success. I just take it one day at a time along my trying to plan everything along the way the best I can.
Chris and Scott, thank you so much for a fantastic interview. And let's go ahead and jump into today's 3 key takeaways. So takeaway number 1 is when both Chris and Scott talked about people are pursuing a lifestyle of living and working on the lakefront. And as you might be considering maybe living, working on the lakefront, they have found that there are 37 items you need to be thinking about when you go to do that. So if you've been living in the city or in the suburbs somewhere, and now you're buying a new property to go out on the lakefront, there are a lot of different things to be thinking about if you do it. For example, when they shared, you should be thinking about flood insurance. Are you able to put a dock or no dock? The kinds of weeds that grow at the front of the lake or at the front of the property. Takeaway number 2, Scott talked about how he wishes he would have started sooner into entrepreneurship. And I think that's a common sentiment many entrepreneurs face. So if you're thinking about starting or developing a new something, whatever that is, go for it. Takeaway number 3 is when they shared about specializing and how specializing was so important to the growth of their business. Scott and Chris both talked about that and shared examples, but really focused on this idea that specializing in this niche really changed the trajectory of their company and their growth. And now it's time for today's win-win. So today's win-win is when Chris talked about not letting fear stop you from taking action or leading your team in the direction you want to go. Don't let fear get in the way. Don't listen to that fear of doubt. Because if you can have the courage to stand and take that leap, take that step, take that just little teeny turn of a direction that you want to go, big exciting things can happen. And that's the episode today, folks. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast and give us a review. And remember, if you or anyone you know might be ready to take your franchise company to the next level or franchise your business, please connect with us at bigskyfranchiseteam.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to having you back next week.